In a world of remote work, the taking of Pelham 123 is basically the equivalent of showing up to your 9 to 5 and then getting waterboarded by John Travolta. It mixes New York infrastructure, capitalism, and toxic masculinity into a delicious little cocktail that is so good, they actually remade it twice. It's day 57 of 365. Today's movie is The Taking of Pelham 123. Directed by the late, great Tony Scott and starring the untoppable Denzel Washington and the unstoppable John Travolta, this is one of my favorite movies we've talked about lately. It's a remake of a 70s film of the same name, and I would like to talk about some of the pacing, cinematography, and other filmmaking aspects that I just really dig in this movie. Tony Scott is a machismo director. If his brother Ridley Scott is the thinking man director, then his brother Tony was the doing man director. If you look at his filmography, you will see the movies that inspired every dadcore movie available in your current Redbox. His movies are slick and sexy, and the way he leans on the B-unit camera to tell his story is genuinely inspiring. Sam Raimi, a different director, came up as a B-unit director under the Coen brothers, and if you compare Tony Scott and Sam Raimi, their use of B-camera is more similar than dissimilar. In The Taking of Pelham 123, this B-unit is used to inform the audience of control. I know there were a lot of people in the reviews that had issues with the stuttering camera, but there is actually a tact behind this. This wasn't just a gimmick at the time. This shuddering effect gives the audience a feeling of trying to catch up. Anytime things are out of control, we can't even barely follow what's happening in frame, but as soon as control is established, everything comes into sharp focus. The plot through line here is of two characters trying to take control of a situation, and the rails here work as a perfect metaphor. This story wouldn't work nearly as well with a plane or a boat. It has to be trains because trains are controlled by the very direction that they get to go. This weaving of cinematography and plot and character is what makes a movie like this stand head and shoulders above the aforementioned things that you might find on a Redbox. They just aren't doing it the way that Tony Scott does it. This adds so much to the movie. This allows for a ratcheting of the tension. The pitch-perfect pacing prepares our peepers for the peril at every point. There's only 6 deaths in the whole movie, and yet it feels more visceral and violent than any body count movie in the same genre. The way they dole out information across the movie leaves us scrambling and guessing as to whether or not Ryder had all of this planned out, including his demise, or whether he was flying more by the seat of his pants because of how intelligent he is. If that's not enough to get you to check out this movie, let's talk about my 3 favorite things. My first favorite thing is evil John Travolta. You've got Face Off, you've got The Taking of Pelham 123, you've got Swordfish. That is, I think, his trilogy of villains, in my opinion. I'm not gonna talk about Battlefield Earth. We don't have to talk about Battlefield Earth. However, I do feel like we're always in for a treat when John Travolta is going to play our villain. I've watched the original version of this movie to save you the time, and one thing that I'll note is that in the original version, the villain is meant to be an everyman. He's as straight-laced and normal as they come. In this version, updating for the early 2000s, they decided instead to give him more of a backstory, and Travolta decides to play that out with this manic, controlled over-the-topness, where you can tell that this guy was like a Wall Street cocaine lord in his early days, went to prison, learned how life actually works, and now has a more complete view of the world as he goes out into it to try to extract more from it. I find that to be really powerful and really engaging. The reviews at the time were saying that he wasn't doing a good job, and I think that that's actually kind of crazy. He's emoting really strong and really charismatically against Denzel Washington. Anybody that knows about Denzel knows that that is a man and a force to be reckoned with in your movie, and Travolta is here to chew as much scenery as Denzel. I think that's really admirable, and we then get the everyman in Denzel's character of Garber. Speaking of Garber, something that really struck me in the theater was his admission of guilt. This is a character choice that I never saw coming, and that kind of betrayal really sat with me in the theater. How am I supposed to root for a protagonist who may have done bad himself? But the point of the movie is actually to skew those lines a little bit, to have you asking questions like, is Travolta's villain as evil as he seems for wanting what he wants? And isn't it crazy that maybe our protagonist wants the same things? Both characters want to help themselves through financial gain. That's understandable to all of us. I can say specifically from my position, that makes sense to me. This is the kind of twist that can leave the audience scrambling. And I found that the end where he brings the milk home, that is just enough payoff to let us know he is a good guy overall, even if he did take the bribe. And in that contrast, my third and final favorite thing is, let's hear it for the normal guy. If I were to change one thing about this movie, it's that Garber would never get a gun in his hand at all. I love that this guy is basically an office jockey being put into this position who's using what he has at his disposal to make things work. By the time he gets out into the field and then armed, I mean, I get why it has to happen. It is very thrilling to conclude with our protagonist taking out the villain. That makes sense for a machismo Tony Scott movie. But in my personal opinion, I think it actually demotes just a little bit from this everyman character. I really love that he's just a guy. No special training, no field training with weapons. He's just a guy doing his best, and I really, really dig that. From thrillers to shock comedy, let's see how The Hangover has aged. That's our next movie. If you want to see that one, give me a follow, and I'll see you tomorrow.